for you.
Hello?
Hello, Jughead. This is Archie. Come over right away. It's a matter of life or death.
Oh, relax, Archie.
Attention, all true believers. Marvel Comics is on the air.
A friend of the unfortunate, enemy of criminals. In reality, Dan Garrett, a rookie patrolman, loved by everyone but suspected by none of being the Blue Beetle.
Boys and girls, your attention, please. Presenting a new exciting radio program featuring the thrilling adventures of an amazing and incredible personality. Faster than an airplane, more powerful than a locomotive, impervious to bullets.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman!
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Everybody, messing around with my old microphone. I keep on thinking I can fix it. I do not have the power.
I'm trying not to actively yawn 3 times in the first 2 minutes and 6 seconds of the show.
I cannot fix that for you. Drink some coffee.
I had an energy drink several hours ago, and that's why the yawning is happening, because it's wearing off. And my body's like, hey, give me more caffeine. And I'm like, no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Trivia King. That's got to be you. It's not me.
Ed is the king of the trivias.
Oh, Ed's the true. Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense to me.
I'm the king of, I could probably fix your microphone, but Ed is the king of the trivias. So.
Cool.
It was a weird comic week, man.
Oh, I wonder if there's a theme, because I was trying to figure out what the theme is.
My theme was this week has no theme and no continuity and really weird. So, needless to say, is a weird week for comics. It's not necessarily a big week, Barlord. Especially because there are still a number of books that are supposed to be out that likely won't be, because they're somewhere unhoused, unwarehoused, unshipped, unfulfilled, everything.
You know what's so interesting is I got my books last week.
Yeah.
When they finally came, it was for last week and this week, so we're good.
Yeah, no, like I said, it's one of those things is that my week was a weird week, but there are still a number of, and I'm seeing this from other stores where Jen got lucky and other stores didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So what's getting released and what's not getting released? Are there actually going to be Dynamite books in stores this week? God only knows. Same for Oni Press. I read 2 Oni Press books. God knows if you'll be able to get them in store. So we're going to go with it, and we're going to see what happens.
Be patient. Be patient.
I'm losing my patience with the Diamonds, but as Jen knows better than most, my patience with Diamond wasn't long to begin with. So
we need them. They're important for all of the independent publishers that just
they're super important, but they're also the reason I feel like I could take the bar and pass. So
don't you have to study first?
No, I got an education from Diamond's legal team. Anyway.
Oh, there you go.
All right, let's get into it.
Man, I'm going to tell you, there's a bunch of trigger warning in this book. It says it's a lovesick tale, and I did not read Lovesick, so maybe there's a bunch of background information that would help in here. Although I don't feel like I needed to have it to enjoy this book or to appreciate this book. But it's about this girl, there she is on the front cover, who is at that really awkward phase of her life where She's in ballet, but she's always like trying to compare. She listens to the other girls in the class, older girls in the class, and they're all talking about, they're just on the cusp of like maybe getting their first womenlies, and they're talking about not eating any food because they want to stay skinny. She has one of her best friends in class has a mom who is voluptuous. So she has like this kind of like, she knows that her mom looks down on this other woman because she feels like she, exposes herself too much. It's like this big complexity of, feels like life at that age. You guys may not have it as complex. I think that guys just punch each other in the face and then all the world is fine. But girls, it's real complex for us. And along with this, she has some big trauma. Like she's walking home from ballet class, and this guy pulls up and talks to her in his van, and he's got his man parts out. And then there's a big thing that happens to one of her classmates from ballet. And then it becomes like this big headspace thing for her. So if you like working through trauma, which you really weren't sure, I wasn't sure in this book I don't even know if I know at the very last page, if this thing that happens to her classmate might be being conflagrated with maybe something that happened to her. So anyway, big trigger warning. It is definite childhood trauma of a sexual nature and death. It's creepy, but beautiful art. Feels like, when I was reading it, I was feeling like someone was drawing from personal experience trauma. So, and this is me also, no personal trauma. Yay! Superwoman special takes place right after all the stuff from the end of Absolute Power, where Amanda Waller is defeated and all of the powers that she kind of like sucked off all of the heroes get redistributed out in a weird fashion. Like Fire and Ice, those girls went to, open up their own salon or whatever in Smallville. Their powers switched. Some people didn't get any power back, Wally. And then there's people like Lois, who got power, who previously had none. So this is an exploration of her kind of like figuring out her power. It gives kind of a background about when she got it. It's her interacting with the other actual Superwoman that's already around. It's cool because it's just part of the main continuity that's going on for All In. But it's a good place. Like if you're like, I just want to read something that's kind of a standalone that just has lots of pages. This is an extra thick book, has good art, and is about a character that I might want to be, you might jump in because you like the way this character is. So this is Lois as a super being.
I'm going to derail the show for a minute.
No!
Jay, can we go back to just the 2-shot where it's just Jen and I and no book on screen?
No, what's going on?
So Barlord made this comment, and I think it's important, especially during this show, to address it. Because he's referencing Diamond. Barlord, I want to make it super clear to everybody on the show that would be really, really, really bad. There are many, 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 many publishers that we like to feature on the show and here on The Experience that could not exist were it not for Diamond.
Mm-hmm.
People who couldn't get distribution other places, so they couldn't be in your local comic shop. There are also numerous things that comic shops carry that they can still only get from Diamond, especially in the collectibles market. So while it's easy for us, and I personally like to rag on Diamond a lot, I also have sat in meetings with Steve Jeppe, the president of Diamond, and other people where we've talked about how important Diamond is and what we can do to help Diamond. So as much as I have a very traumatic and storied history with Diamond, they're super important to our business. And so, like I said, it's really important to kind of that feeling. I understand, but it's super important that we do everything we can to not have that be true. So, just something to think about as we go forward, because there are at least 2 books, if not more, on my list that would not be direct market distributed if not for Diamond. And it's because the publishers aren't big enough to get in at Penguin Random House or Simon Schuster or Lunar or one of these other places.
Yep.
They can only get in at Diamond. So, all right, Jay, take us back to where we're supposed to be.
Fun fact, my comic book from the 90s would not have been distributed were it not for Diamond.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Okay. This is one of the books that would not be out there if it wasn't for Diamond. And sometimes I wonder if, again, that might not be a good idea. This book is bonkers. Like, to the point where I don't know if it's good or not. Like, it's wildly interesting, but I'm not sure if it's any good. And part of this is I talked about this when we did Calavera PI number 1. The flipping back and forth between Spanish and English is done too quickly in this book for my inability to speak or read Spanish. Right? Like, there are things that are said in Spanish. I'm like, I need to know what that means, but I don't know what it means. So I have to move on and try and figure it out from context clues, and I'm just not that smart. So what you have is this private investigator who essentially gets killed, is buried, is grieved, everyone moves on. And then he comes back as a little bit of a skeleton man. And this is during the time of the Great Depression. And everybody in California was kind of blaming, the Mexican-American population for the Depression and for lack of jobs and other things, when truth is it was Herbert Hoover's fault. Anyway, look up Smoot Hawley. Anyway, the whole idea here is that this person is trying to investigate crimes that happen to the Hispanic community, particularly, in particular. And in this story, he is investigating an abduction. And they introduce the thing that most terrifies me in comic books in this story. Clowns. There are clowns. So that's kind of where it leaves off. We know clowns are bad. Clowns are bad. And that's sort of where this issue leaves off. It reads really fast for a 32-page book. It reads like a half book, like a short story. So that's very nice, and it lets you kind of get everything you need to know and move on. But again, I'm not sure if it's good or not, but it's very interesting. It's a unique take. It's not something I've read before, so we'll keep giving it a try. But I'm going to need a translation or some subtitles or something if it gets any more Spanish. Oni Press.
Oni Press. Black Lightning. I tried really hard not to pick this up this week because I was like, no, I have so much to read. Ugh, so much. But I wanted to stay in here and see if I could figure out more about these characters, since it's kind of a new to me group. I feel bad about that I haven't really followed them before. This follows more closely that whole story with Lightning as she tries to figure herself out. She's trying to fight her way out of her father's shadow, which I understand is very hard because kind of like Steve Rogers, Black Lightning has always been that guy who's always tried to do the right thing, right? He's always the one making the right choice. And she finds that very hard to live into the shadow of. So this is kind of an introspective, but also lots of battly things. So you'll get your fights in this one. But I've really been enjoying it. Yeah, the first one was really, really good. I like, me, I'm a character-driven reader. So when I say, and then some battly things happen, is because to me, the battly things aren't what I'm reading it for. I'm reading it for this, like, living in my dad's shadow part. Then Batman Dark Patterns. This one introduces a character called the Wounded something. Man, I knew I wouldn't remember it. I was like, what? Look, it has a clue on the front cover. We are the Wounded. So, introduces that character. It's a weird. Okay, so feels like there's like torture stuff that's going on here. Like the people that they find, that Batman finds that have been injured by this character have got, like, for lack of a better way to put it, have got little tiny, like, almost like spikes, but they look more like if the spikes came off of like a oh my gosh, what's the name of that creature that stabs you with long spikes, quills?
Porcupine.
So it's like that's the look of those things, but it's like they're all over their body. Like they're actually spending as much time as possible torturing people with these little spikes, hitting them in all their pain centers before they actually get them killed. So, and then when Batman finally meets this character, there's something about that ties together, which makes it, like Batman doesn't like to kill, makes it nearly impossible to fight this person because of the way they use these spikes on themselves. So maybe Wound Man. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a lame name when you think about all the very, very creepy things that he does, but Wound Man's probably right.
King, it's not creepy at all.
No. So this is a dark book. If you like dark Batman, this is definitely for you.
Okay.
What's in the box?
You don't actually want to know.
Oh, no.
This is Shiver Suspend Stories #1. This is an EC book from Oni Press. This is an anthology of Christmas scary stories. There were some in there that were good, and there were some in there that were a little weak in terms of, scariness. Some of them were just kind of. I've got a book from Cullen Bunn on my list this week. You really can't compete. And then there were some that were like, okay, this would give Cullen Bunn nightmares. So, like, it's a good mix, right? The first story in this book is written by our friend Hunter Goranson, who's a friend of Jen and I's, who's also the publisher and president of Oni Press. But he wrote a short story about a Santa Claus Christmas tree ornament who is enchanted and loves its owner, and hates its owner's kids because its owner's kids are jerks, like the owner's wife or like the owner's husband. And it takes its revenge in a very Santa Clausy way by slicing them up and putting them in boxes. So that is one of the stories, right? Like, there's more to it and you should read it. Then there are some other stories that are a little meh. And then it ends with a story that was originally published in EC in the 50s. That is just as creepy now as it would have been in the 50s. So just know that you need to read all of the stories in this because they're all different. They're all holiday themed. And they have different levels of, okay, I like that. I should maybe see a therapist. So, just be careful. And Castle, if this is your Castle's Corner book, good luck, man. Enjoy the nightmares.
Okay. So far, Pete has been killed 2 ways because every single issue he gets killed because he is this dimension's / Earth's champion. And the creatures that keep on getting sent at him like to mess him up in different ways. Like the first death that he experiences spaghettification, which is very, very painful. He's been given these special, I think they're called reeds by, I can't remember who gave them to him. Doctor Strange, I think. Or Doctor Strange Ghost. That allow him to come back to life. So it's clear now, I think, to Pete that he is going to die the total amount of times that he has reads, which is 8. So I feel bad for him, real bad, because it feels like these interdimensional beings, whatever they are, gods, just playing with him. And it looks like from this issue that they've known he was going to be the champion for a long time. It wasn't a surprise to them that the previous champion, which I think is Thanos, was going to step down and not bother this time. So I do like this costume a lot. I love his costume change. It just looks cool to me.
You know he's going to die 8 times because they told you.
Yes. But I didn't know if Pete knew that.
Oh, I'm like, this is the thing about some of these Marvel covers. Like, don't tell me. Call it the many deaths of Spider-Man and then let me figure it out as Pete figures it out. Don't be that guy. Or put spoiler across the top or some trash. Come on, Marvel, be better.
My favorite one of these is when Donny Cates put on the top of the book he was going to kill Rocket. The death of Rocket. He just put it right on there.
Right. Like, seriously? You'd sell more books.
Alien parodies, though. I wanted to say I knew where this book fits in, but I don't think it really matters. In the, like some of them are saying, oh, this happens pre, episode, Aliens, maybe before Romulus, whatever. I don't think this one matters, honestly. This one is more, imagine if you took a bunch of kind of like gangster guys, put them on an island, hence parody. So where they are meeting to do nefarious like deals, etc. Big crime boss, all that fun stuff. But they're treating, like arms, guns, and all that kind of stuff. So it's like weaponry, right? But in this case, there's a weapon that gets introduced that they weren't intending, I don't think, or maybe somebody did. Probably a big company that starts with the letter W. So yeah, there's some body weapons here.
Big company that starts with it's Wonder Bread. Got it. Okay.
It's Wonder Bread. That's it. You got it. They didn't fortify their breads. You have weak bones. You're gonna die an early death.
Hey Jay, did you read FML number 1?
No.
Did I read FML number 1?
Pretty sure.
I don't think I know I didn't because I think we got ours a week late, weirdly.
Okay. I can't review this book.
Can you tell us what FML stands for?
No, because you like to keep the show family friendly.
Oh.
Right. So here's the thing, right? I love Kelly Sue DeConnick. And, by her government name, which is not DeConnick. Anyway, her and her husband are some of my favorite peoples. Her husband is the most bat crap comic writer that ever lived, and I would say that to his face and have. Anyhow, we're all glad he's writing movies and television now and not writing Odyssey Volume 2. Anyhow, the thing about this book is, if you haven't read number 1, and I'm certain I haven't, number 2 makes no sense. Like, it is so serialized that I cannot, in good conscience, say issue 2 was anything because I didn't read issue 1. I'm certain somebody else read it. As a result, I'm gonna pass. Like, I was really hoping that, okay, I read it and I could be like, Jay, you read number 1. What was it about? Or Jen, you read it. What was it about? And then hopefully that would clear up my giant plot hole that is the entire conceit of this book. But if you haven't read number 1, don't pick it up. Wait for the trade. It seems like it could be very interesting, but I just don't know enough to know what I don't understand. If that makes sense. It is just, this book is just so serialized that having a working knowledge of number one, I can't even talk with any kind of authority or any kind of interest on number two.
It looks like an airplane door.
I do not know.
Definitely
That's what I'm saying. Like,
3 doggos.
right.
I know.
Like I there's a story about a dog in it that is the only thing that is at all a through line that I can follow. And it's because they introduced the dog at the beginning of the issue and it goes through the whole issue.
Mm-hmm.
None of the rest of it is given any context at all.
Okay. I
So
know it had a lot of buzz. Number one had a lot of buzz online. So
right. And that's what I'm saying is it has the potential, but if every comic should be someone's first, this one shouldn't.
okay, this is just like it says on the front cover. It is the prequel to the Disney series, the Disney Plus series, and I think it's a fine kind of like gives an origin to this Peter Parker, who's a school age kiddo. His introduction is basically standing out front of his school, and he meets somebody that I don't ever remember ever seeing in any of the Spider-Man things, just a classmate. It's not MJ, and it's somebody with like a very interesting name. Looks a little bit like goth, but with like bright pink hair, kind of one of those cool looks very much their own individual. And while they're standing there and conversing, their school blows up. And somewhere near that time, Pete gets bit by a spider.
Again.
So, yes. So he does have an origin story here that's different. He's not at Alchemax. And he's not, down, tagging the underground. But different thing. But this one I think is like it's going to be meant for a more general audience, wanting to have an everyday adventure with Peter Parker as they figure out what school they're going to put him in next because his is gone. And they actually go into the school in this issue and see who is trying to cover up what's happened. So
I don't know when Pete's finally going to learn not to play with arachnids. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know. It's
His
just
whole
crawling
life
on
would
him.
be better if he would just stop playing with the terrifying spiders all the time.
It's just crawling on him. He had nothing to do with it. Okay. And Ultimate Universe. Heads up, everybody. This is introduction to Ultimate Fury there. This is a very, very important issue because he's got a plan that he's enacted to kind of like fool these bad guys to get them all gathered and end everything because it looks like to be the only way to take care of stuff. This all happens right after, like Tony's appears to be dead. Other bad stuff has happened in the Ultimates. But this one, there's some really good storytelling here where there's big twists. And then after that story is over, keep reading because you get the introduction of, I think it's like 5 pages. So the first appearance of Ultimate Wolverine. And as I understand it, the spoiler cover, which actually has him for the first time on the cover, is really a sought after book this week. So definitely get with your LCS, maybe call them right after the show and make sure that you can get one. This is a book that has all the earmarks of like your store might not have ordered a ton of them because it isn't one of the main storyline. It's not the Ultimates. It's not Ultimate Spider-Man. It's not whatever. But this one year in is going to be one of those that I think goes back. A lot of storylines are going to go back and touch to it Like there's been other Marvel books that have done that before, where it doesn't seem like it's an important book until other stuff starts happening, and then you're like, oh crap, I remember that from. So this one, definitely pick up if you were doing Ultimate stuff. If you started here and hadn't read anything Ultimate, it's going to take a little bit of time to kind of like get your bearings, because there's a lot that's gone on this year.
Is there a Wolverine thing in this one?
Yeah, that was the first appearance of the Ultimate Wolverine, was the last few pages.
Okay, because there's a lot of variants that are Wolverine.
Yeah.
But this main cover is Raphael Albuquerque. It looks like Steranko, doesn't it?
It's really, I haven't seen this version of Fury in a while. I kind of missed that. I missed the white sideburns, man. And
Like
the black and white outfit.
It looks like a Jim Steranko kind of 70s psychedelic cover, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to start with a problem that I have with some of these hard case crime books. And I want you guys to understand that this is not a knock on the book. This is just a knock on this industry in general. This book, in its entirety, takes place in the snow. I live in the snow. None of these characters are wearing enough clothes to be out in the snow. They're all going to get frostbite in places that no one wants frostbite. Okay? Like, even if you enjoy looking at those places, you don't want them to also have frostbite. Okay? This is a Heat Seeker. This is one of the Heat Seeker stories. We've met Heat Seeker before. They are someone who helps other people disappear. And in this story, they're helping other people disappear. It's a super interesting story. Like, they're running from bad guys on a ski lift, and they're skiing, and these guys have snowmobiles, and they're trying to evade snowmobiles, which is why the whole thing is in the snow. And someone put a coat on these women. Like, I worry for their safety.
She has a little shrug coat on. That's not her problem.
This is not how she's dressed in the book.
Oh, no.
She's in a snowsuit, but it's not, like, attached. So it's like, you might as well be dressed like this anyway. Right, the shoulders look warm. The rest of her has hypothermia.
Mm-hmm.
Like, anyway. So it's an introduction to helping a character escape from some bad guys who are... You're just asked to accept that they're bad guys. You're not really given a ton of good reason why they're bad guys. And at the same time, there's not a whole lot of depth into either of the characters, right? There's just a lot of, hey, here's a shower scene kind of stuff. Like, not a lot of depth there. That said, the action in this book is outstanding. It always is. All of these books are great action stories. But as someone who wore a hockey sweater to the office tonight and is awfully concerned about going back to their car and how cold they're going to be walking that 9 feet from the door to the car, I do not understand this. That's all I'm saying. Lyle would appreciate the jokes I'm making about this book, by the way.
Okay, first appearances. Woo! This book is the first appearances of Cat Pool and Mouse Pool. I know you guys care about that very much. This is chock full of a bunch of little, like, 2 or 3, 4-page stories featuring the Pool family. They're all really fun. I enjoyed them very much. They are not family friendly, despite the fact they're kitties and puppies and little mice. The mouse will, just bite you off at the ankle. They're pretty good at it. Yeah, there's some really great storytelling in here. I say A, get it if you like first appearances. B, definitely get it if you like Deadpool. And C, get it because it all works together so well. You're gonna like the little short storyness of it. Except for the only thing I would say is, like, the very first story and the very last story, they tell you to sing along in your head because they are, their rhyming scheme set to Christmas music. So if you hate Christmas music, you should not get this book.
I won't be reading it. Okay. This is the most interesting book I read this week. In a big way, it has the most interesting mystery I've read in a comic in a long time. However, I have to give a trigger warning. If you are in any way, like me, upset or bothered by patterns of irregular circles, there's, that phobia that people have, this is not a book you should be reading.
Explain patterns of irregular circles. What's an example?
I can't because I'm worried I'll throw up.
Okay.
It is the single biggest phobia I have. Just look it up, Jen, and then I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's this is a story about people who are either in bloom or not in bloom. And to be in bloom is something that these people want, and I don't understand why. The mystery is about this plant that sort of causes blooming or not blooming, and how it interacts with people in and around the world. And so, like I said, I think this is the most interesting mystery concept I've read in a while. It is definitely sci-fi body horror as well. But plot-wise, I can't really go into it without giving away a whole bunch. But just know that to be in bloom is to be problematic. Or not, depending on your political alignment. And I say political because I could say religious affiliation or your thoughts on your mother or whatever. It's just, that's my joke for saying, depending on where you come down on this as you read it, you'll either want the characters you like to be in bloom or not. It is not cut and dry what's good and what's not. So super interesting concept. I really did appreciate the art style for having just enough realism to put me at unease, but not so much realism that I had to run to the bathroom and revisit lunch. If that makes any sense at all. I'm sure it doesn't. But this is, like I said, it's a real interesting concept. It's Michael Conrad did a really good job of writing the story and making it flow really well, but it just turns into a weird body horror thing that I just was a little off put by at times. So, did you look it up, Jen? Are you now grossed out?
I mean, the things that come up, I think the AI is confused about what I'm asking for because it just brings up a bunch of patterns of circles.
Hold on. I'm going to turn my camera off for just a second in case I get... Yeah, tryptophobia.
Okay.
Or trypophobia.
It's like one of those conditions that unless you have it, it's probably hard to understand what the trigger is.
Not really. It's gross. If you like looking at a picture of a honeycomb.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, imagine if those were all different shapes and depths and it's still a pattern, but you can't figure out what the pattern is.
I must not have it. That sounds fine to me. Thanks, Kenneth, for supporting us. I appreciate it. This is one of those books. Infinity Watch is going to be one of those books this week that might seem unimportant, but it is tremendously important. This has been a book series that has been led up to all of the, I think it were all annual books through all of the Marvel titles that had the Infinity Saga, I think. Infinity Stone Saga, something like that was what was kind of like introduced in the annuals for all the books. And at the end of that series, these heroes end up having the stones become part of them. So they are the Infinity Stones. And together, they form a very godlike group of people, especially if they could work together. And as part of that group, you see Coulson right there. So, cover your ears for a second if you want to go back and read the Infinity storyline and not know this already from the internet. Coulson is now death. All right. You're safe. Mark's safe.
Can I uncover my ears yet?
You're good. So this kind of like introduces the characters. Like if you didn't read any of those and you don't know who any of these characters are, you're going to be fine. So definitely know that you can jump in here and not really have needed to know anything beforehand. It helps if you watched any of the Avengers movies, so you know what an Infinity Stone is, and that you know, for example, what the Soul Stone might be capable of. And it's fun to see the personalities of the people who got which stones. They don't necessarily get along 100%. My favorite character is, I don't even know he's on that. Oh, he's the guy in the purple. He's described as big and kind of not that smart. And I do like that he knows that about himself and is cool with it. He's totally fine. Kyle, you're very smart. That is a total misnomer. So this book gets really exciting when you have some other. They've decided for themselves they're not superheroes, but there is something that goes amiss, and one of them says, "Let's go be gods." That'll be fun. And so they show up, but what they show up and experience is like they should have stayed home because now they're in real bad trouble. So it introduces, I think these are two new characters that are going to be giving them a run for their money. So imagine beings that are not worried at all about other beings that might have stones in them. It's a great book.
So I covered my ears because this is supposed to be my pull list, and then I realized I'm probably not getting my pull list this week.
You might if it arrived after.
They don't have any place to open.
Mm.
For those of you who don't know, my LCS caught fire yesterday, so I probably won't get my pull list this week.
Although I'm very much happy, like when they finally got to go in and to see it. Although it's all waterlogged, it looks like there is stuff that's savable. Like
yeah, I'm going out tomorrow to help them dig. So
yeah,
all right. See, now when I said earlier, hey, EC, I have books by Cullen Bunn. You really can't compete. This book was bonkers. Oh my gosh. Listen, if you find out that your dad made a deal with a bunch of demons for his own immortality, and then he went back on his deal with the demons, become a priest or something. I don't know what your recourse is in this moment, but do not do what these kids did, which is just ignore it. It does not work out because the demons will find you.
You can't just go like this, la 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 la.
No.
Darn it.
All of these kids have a special, unique ability that they are having that the demons want. And none of these kids want to deal with it because none of them liked their father. But guess what? That's not how contracts work. So these demons are coming to collect. And the way they're collecting is berserk. They're attacking parents, boyfriends, girlfriends. The one girl got thrown out a window and survived after falling onto a car. Like this is like Nakatomi level falling to the ground and just walking away. Like, you know, if Alan Rickman had lived at the end of Die Hard, like craziness. Cullen Bunn has really found a way to take this idea of demonic possession away from like actually being a possession and more like, hey, I own you contractually and legally, but I'm still a demon, so it's still going to be terrifying and not at all litigious, which would be an interesting way to handle it too. So again, this book is great. I will say this, it is a short book. It is not a lot of pages. The whole PDF is 32 pages, or the whole book is 32 pages, and there's a follow-up story for Lost on the Moon. Like there's a backup story in there that's an intro to Lost on the Moon.
Okay.
But I understand why it's so short because the amount of red they had to use probably blew the print budget. So much red. That's all I'm saying.
This cover disturbs me. I don't really.
Well, look at the text I just sent you, Miss Jen, and
Okay.
it'll disturb you more.
Excellent. I'm ready to be disturbed.
So
I'm disturbed because there's no text.
Facebook message.
Oh, dear.
All right, Laura Kinney Wolverine. This is Laura Kinney as Wolverine.
Stop it. Oh my goodness. Things you learn from this book. You should not mess with Laura Kinney Wolverine at all. She's vicious, man. Pretty vicious little girl. Man, I can't remember what goes on this. I had so many like superhero books this week that I'm gotta open it up for a second and see what the main storyline is. Sorry, it takes me 2 seconds. Here we go. Okay. Oh, this one's really cool. I forgot about this. Okay, so this is kind of her kind of coming into her own as being like getting to have her own kind of a purpose and adventure. So do you remember that the big former headquarters of the X-Men in New York was like basically a big treehouse? You guys remember that? It was in the main park. Central Park, just hanging out there. So she ends up going near it, like she's got some friends with her, but they see another mutant there who they did not know from before. So it's a mutant that never made it to Krakoa, never was regenerated, I guess. But that she runs away when they approach because she doesn't know them. And, you know, mutants are persona non grata largely. So, but Laura notices that there's like a knot in the tree that I think she smells something behind it. So she opens it up and there's a letter in there. And it's this mutant that just ran away, basically saying, please help me, please, please, please. Whoever gets this letter, my brother is disappeared and I don't know where he is and I need help finding him. So this is an adventure about Laura going to find the brother. But the cool thing is it also exposes her to whole new ideas that mutants might also take advantage of other mutants for their mutant powers, which makes me sick to my stomach a lot. In a very bad way, like for money, for whatever, power. And her brother is being taken advantage in this way. So this is a rescue by her. And then she meets another mutant that has a different way of dealing with it, which is to be positive and get basically a safe place. So this is the beginning of cool stuff.
All right. So I wanted to read this book last week, but the PDF wasn't available, even though it came out last week. So I read it this week. As you know, in the Kosher Mafia story, we are at Rosh Hashanah. Or no, Yom Kippur, I'm sorry. And our main characters are counting on the holiday as a reprieve from what is almost certain execution by the Kosher Nostra. As they return to their homes in Cleveland to try to undo what has been done to them and to make their community aware of what's happening with what essentially works out to be the Cleveland Browns. I'm kidding. The German Bund in this story happens in Parma, which is where the Cleveland Browns practice facility is now. So it's just funny to think of the bad guys as the Cleveland Browns because they're also bad at football. But anyway, so you have one character trying to convince the head of the Kosher Nostra that he needs to be more worried about the Germans than the Italians. And you have the other guy going to sort of break into the Germans' headquarters and steal their paperwork as proof that the Kosher Nostra needs to pay attention. This is about this whole issue. You have one storyline about how it's so hard to maintain balance between the families, which is always the case when it comes to, mob stories and, this kind of organized crime sort of story. Or keeping the families at peace is always the tough part. And then you have the other part where it's time to punch some Nazis, man. And breaking in and kind of doing a heist sort of story. And it ends on a cliffhanger because at the end of the book, you realize that all of this work may be for nothing, but you don't know from whom. And so you're left hanging going into issue 5 going, I don't know if this worked or not. And once the boss of the Kosher Nostra breaks his fast, it's been made clear through the past 2 issues that it is not going to be pretty. So you wind up with this sort of cliffhanger ending where you're not sure who you can trust and who you can't, and a lot of people are in peril. David Hazen's doing a great job with this book.
I can't believe there's no more.
Well, I technically was one book light this week because I'll be honest, there were no other books we got that I could jump in on because everything else was like 7 or 8 issues in, and I hadn't read the first 7 or 8 issues. And the other book that's supposed to be a number 1 this week for Mad Cave, I didn't have a PDF for.
Aww.
So.
Poop.
What do you do? I can't, I'm so grateful for these companies for sending us the PDFs so Jay and I can read them that I can't really get angry when I don't get them. But it does make it weeks. It does make the weeks weird sometimes when it's like, okay, I only have 6 books.
This is good. I just was thinking, if you guys know of a book in a week that you definitely want us to review, if you let at least me know before 3:00 Central Time when I go and pick my books and take off to go read them, I will make sure to read it. Yeah,
Jay and I don't necessarily have that ability. But if there is stuff you like, shoot us a message on social media going, hey. Lyle, I talked about you earlier. Go back and look at my review of which book was it, Jay? Heat
Seeker.
Heat Seeker. You'll appreciate my thoughts on cold weather. So everybody, Friday at 1:00 Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. 1, 12, 11. Yeah. 10 a.m. Pacific. Sorry. We have a new show called Order Up, which is an FOC show where we discuss books that are on final order cutoff on Monday. So you can watch on Friday and figure out what you need to contact your LCS to order coming up in the future. And once we get that show up and running, we'll be doing that a lot. That'll be an every week show. Right now, Thursday nights after Miss Jen's show is Dom and Dunes. Comic Dunes Jeff and Dominic Domhanator are bringing you great vintage books and slabs. Jay and I will be back on Sunday with our Producers Live show, which I have no idea what I'm going to show because I'm running out of stuff to show. But we will figure that out. And then every other show will be the same as normal this week on The Experience. So make sure you tune in and check them all out. If you, like me, find yourself without a comic book shop all of the sudden, to find one, head over to comicshoplocator.com, type in the number of the area where you are, and it will tell you where there are comic shops nearby to you. Luckily for me, I still have a good relationship with my comic shop, even though it is currently underwater. And we will be sorting out what to do about that in the coming days. But if you don't have that situation, find a comic shop nearby to you, give them a call, and go in and visit. Spend a few dollars. Help them have a happier, healthier holiday season. Did I miss anything?
What comes on next?
We got Mint Hunter next. And, and then it's 10 Eastern, 9 Central. We'll have Kicking It with Henri. Please, if you would, do us a favor. After the show is over, come back and drop us a comment. It really helps our algorithm, apparently, that I still don't understand, but it helps us out. So make sure you come back after the show, drop a comment, let them know what a great job they did today.
That thing where you're mid-sentence and your brain plays the Windows reboot sound.
That's okay. I couldn't think of the word porcupine today, so.
It took me longer. It took me longer than it should have too with your description. So, all right. Like I said, guys, head into your LCS, spend some money. You never know.
Miles being a hero right now. Spent $400 at his LCS.
You never know when the new sign at the Chinese restaurant down the strip mall from your LCS is going to cause a fire and you won't have one. So make sure you visit your LCS often and support them as much as possible. We'll see you guys next time.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.